Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. It was temperatures in the mid-60s again here in Wichita. Much warmer than normal, but that's what El Nino is supposed to give us, warmer than normal temperatures and a little bit more moisture. They haven't been right on the moisture so far, but the temperature, they have been spot on. Okay, I think the key today is really going to resolve around central banks. G20 is in Turkey. It's a great place to have a G20 meeting. This guy foments the Islamic revolution in Turkey, taking it from a secular Islamic state to a Sharia Islamic state as fast as he can, but so be it. All the news is centered on Paris, the Paris attacks and what comes next. Paris, France struck out against an ISIS training camp in Syria, dropped 40,000 pounds of bombs on them. So that's where we are. Again, what will the central banks have to do to stabilize the markets? Japan has entered another recession according to the wire services. It's either the fourth or the fifth one for them. Shows you how well Keynesian economics works. You got to flush out the system. You've got to get rid of the bad debt. You've got to, as painful as it is, and that's why you don't want these things. You don't really want government intervention. If you can get a recession every 4 to 6 years, as they normally have been, yes, it's hurt, yes, it's painful, but they're usually over in a year to 18 months. When the Japan has been under stagflation since 1992. That's 20 plus years, and that's what's facing the rest of the world. And we're seeing it in our economy. We see people not working. We see real family income dropping. We see inflation, no matter what the government says. At least in food, rent, and gasoline up until late. So that's where we are. So today, I mean, it's really what will the central banks do to stabilize the stock markets, equities? And I believe if they do come out, they will do it very visibly. You will see the 50 lot trades just advertised right off the opening of the day session, and we'll see if that's enough, and it usually is enough. They're the buyer of last resorts. You'll get a wave of selling. Everybody waits for that second wave of selling, the second leg to add to it, and it doesn't come because the Fed's bought everything up. And then the pressure's on those that sold to cover those shorts. So we have a breakout. 20 to 16 is pretty good support, and 28 to the buck is pretty good resistance as it stands, and we're right in the middle. So 17 to 21 is going to be buy one. 9 to 13 is going to buy two. Given what's going on around the world, again, you just can't see the bottom falling out of the Treasury market. On the sell side, 27 to 31, would like to get it done closer to the buck. Sell 1, and 3 to 7 for sell 2. And it's all going to be tied to the direction of the E-mini. The E-mini sells will rally if the E-mini comes roaring back. No matter who intervenes or for whatever the reason, this market's not going to rally. Today's news, Empire State Manufacturing Survey minus a nickel. It was minus 11 on last month's report. My guess is it could come in lower than forecast. And again, it's afternoon in Syria. Evening's fast approaching. France has done their strikes. G20 is meeting in Turkey. I'm sure they'll come out with a statement of solidarity. Words are cheap. They don't have to do much. And then, what are we going to do after that? What's the United States going to do? They're going to accelerate the importation of refugees from the Middle East. People that have nothing in common with our history, with our values, with Constitution, with the Magna Carta, all that stuff. When they say it's a foreign culture, they ain't lying in that situation. That makes it very difficult for them to assimilate. And here we find ourselves in the 30-year, which has sold more. Selling started in Asia at 154. You can see the Globex open, so we've rejected prices above 54. Have the London high at 28, so 28 to 31. 27 to 31, sell 1. 7 to 11 will be sell 2. On the buy side, we have Friday afternoon's last rotate down at 10. We're at 20, so 17 to 13 is buy 1. Then we'll make it 1 to 5, buy 2. But, I mean, if there's ever an argument for Europe, the Middle East, everybody else to seal their damn borders and not let anybody come in, period, no matter what, this is it. And our government will take just the opposite course. Even announced it over the weekend. So, you know, these people are protected 24/7. They're surrounded by armed people. They want to take those rights away from us. They honestly, to come up and make these decisions, to make that type of decision, you honestly have to believe deep down in your very innermost fiber that it could never happen to you. You'll always be protected. Things get bad enough, they'll take you to Fort Eustis, they'll feed you, they'll protect you, everything will be taken care of. And it's not the same for the rest of us. Okay, we're going to have resistance 95 to the buck. Heavy stops above 111 for an S2, and we got pretty good support 85 to 87. And most markets will try to get back to where they were on Friday, and then it really does get down to what are the central banks going to do to shore up the markets. All markets reacted the same way. Euro was down, the yen was down, but that was because Japan's back in a recession. Dollar was up, gold was up, crude oil was up, equities were lower, treasuries were higher, and that's exactly how you expect the markets to react in that situation. And the key is so the natural direction without intervention for stock markets and equities, given the uncertainties, would be lower. And the central bank, the Fed, is what stands between that happening, and they probably won't allow it to happen. Okay, the euro's reaction was lower. It found buying right below 07, and you have to feel once again that central bank support is what's holding the markets up in this situation. They don't mind the euro selling. That's their central bank's position, is they want the euro lower so they can export outside of the European Union. So 107.50, a round number, plus or minus. Sell 1, 75, sell 2. 107 even, plus or minus. 106.75, plus or minus, for support. Okay, crude's interesting. They are working to destroy the ISIS's infrastructure, take the oil away from them over there. But Syrian oil with the glut, I mean, nobody thinks that the Syrian oil or the tax there are going to take supply off the market in a meaningful way. OPEC meets in December in Vienna, and from what we read, nothing's going to be changed. So the war spreading outside of Syria right now, probably not on anybody's radar. I mean, you think about it and what it would take to happen. So what you have is that you've got Iran, Syria, and Russia, and Iran could make a lot of trouble in the Persian Gulf, but they're on the same page fighting in Syria, or along with the United States and France and English special forces, etc. So it looks pretty well contained. The real danger is that the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia are backing those that are trying to overthrow Assad, and they've said that it is a battle. It's the Sunni versus the Shia. The Shia would be Iran, the Sunni would be Saudi Arabia, and that's where it's hard to make a play. So no one expects anything will really change in the Middle East, but again, it just depends on if Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states decide to move in a meaningful way. They control a lot of oil. That's what could explode oil to the upside or take it higher. With all the above ground storage, nobody's going to be worried about running out of oil in the short term, but they've proven that they can accept some pretty painful policies that really hurt their oil revenue. So that's where we find ourselves. I don't think the war spreads. I don't think things get out of hand. So it's down to how much support will central banks pour into their stock markets, including Japan, because the recession is back on. And my guess is all that it'll take. Now, they don't mind it selling. So our first deal, we closed at 23, which is right here. That was Friday. And we're back to that. You can see all the way from Globex, it's been all the way up. So our first little band of support is going to be basically 15 to 20. You got the London low at 14. You got the breakout from 18. So this 15 area, 10 to 15, looks like might be the first place that the central banks would step up to the plate. Then 2000, 2005 would be buy two. They did get stops below 2000. For those that had it. Where is resistance? It's 25 to 30. So maybe a little higher on the opening than a sell, and then we're going to see if 10 to 15 holds up or 15 to 20. Okay, last rotate up over lunch stopped at 36.5, so we're 25 to 30, so 35 to 40 will be sell too. I think we have to give it a little room this morning and just kind of let it unfold, with the biggest buyer out there being our Fed. Okay, it's going to take a bit to get everything up posted. I will get busy with that, and I'll be back with you as soon as possible.